We are two women in academia,
raising questions and breaking down perceptions
from a Black point of view.
Welcome to the Black Gaze Podcast.
It's your girl, Dr. Porcher.
And it's your girl, Dr. Bertrand.
We gotta take a collective breath. Y'all know we get old. Dr. Bertrand and I were out last night with each other, hanging out.
Why you act like we was at a club, though?
We were at club with my son. My son be turned up, and he required a lot of energy. And we are exhausted this morning, but we still gonna give y'all what? Big energy.
Big energy.
Okay, friends. So we have some amazing co-hosts today. I'm hyped.
I'm hyped. I'm really, really hyped because we got some dope folks. Our show just keeps getting, and I know this, I'm saying this with humility. I don't want people to think that I'm taking it the wrong way, but it's just getting doper and doper, but not because of us. I mean, we already dope. We ain't putting ourselves down. But because of the co-hosts that we have been bringing in.
Listen, we are really taking on, and I'm going to bring church up in this joint
I
need it. We are really taking on Darius Daniels' theme for the year. He said, what?
Better!
So we doing better every episode.
Yes.
I must own that. So friend, can you tell the folks what we talking about? And I'm going to cite this, but you tell the folks what we talking about, and you got to give it to them like,
don't tell me like I'm giving it to like you. I'm gonna be me.
Just give it the way you want to give it.
All right, so we're gonna be talking today about everything you love about the world is because of
who?
Black girls.
Okay, now listen.
Yes.
I have to make sure that I give credit where credit is due. So one of my girlfriends, Tracy Amanda Washington, Tracy Amanda, honey. It's Tracy Amanda.
Put some respect on the two names, all right?
Okay, so Tracy Amanda, she has a church. She's from New Orleans, and she has
a church.
She has a shirt.
Oh, I was like, she got a church.
She has a shirt that says, "Everything you love about New Orleans is because of Black people."
And that's true, though.
Like, seriously. We ain't even going to talk about it. But that's where this title came from. So, everything you love about the world is because of Black girls.
But that is so true, because we are so everything. And then when we bring these co-hosts out, then that's just going to layer it up.
It's going to layer it up.
So can you go ahead and you want to bring them out? Bring them out.
Okay. So let me
you
start
gonna cut my
first.
introduction?
No. Can I go first?
Go ahead.
All right, because I got two. All right. So, listen, let me tell y'all, we ain't got no regular degulars on here today.
Regular degulars?
Honey, we got
big
doctors.
All doctors. Put some respect on it. It's doctors.
That's why people be killing me when they be saying, oh, I didn't know Black people do that, honey. We do all things. And we are the things. Okay, let me start. So the first person I have the distinct honor.
Not distinct, girl. You increasing that vocabulary.
Excuse me. Can I do my introduction? Okay. I have the distinct honor of introducing Dr. Cierra Kaler-Jones. Come on, hyphenated. Okay.
Come on.
She is a social justice educator, researcher, dancer, and choreographer based in Washington, D.C. Shout out to the DMV.
Shout out to the DMV. My mama's in the DMV.
Can I finish? Okay. Dr. Kaler-Jones' research broadly focuses on how to create and sustain educational spaces rooted in joy and love while refuting control and management tactics in schools that deny young people opportunities for creativity and critical consciousness building. Honey, that is just a lot in one space. Honey, she did not come to play. Okay, her heart's work, I love that. I love that heart's work. Mm-hmm. Her heart's work includes running a program that uses art and political education to fuel social change through the co-creation of healing center spaces for and with Black girls in TGNC. Let me break down TGNC for y'all. Because, honey, this is a new thing for me. Transgender, non-conforming young people. I love that.
Why we over here like, I love her.
I know.
Keep reading.
Keep reading. Okay. She currently serves as the Director of Storytelling for Communities for Just Schools Fund. She is also the founder, honey. Director of Unlock Your Story, an organization that supports women in organizations in leveraging storytelling and movement for liberation, community building, and what? Social change.
Yo, she is dope.
Listen, we ain't got no regular degulas today.
Listen.
Who you got next?
Okay, another non-regular degular.
Okay, give it to me.
Okay, I have the distinct honor.
Oh, now you want to use distinct. Y'all see her?
I mean, I could come up with another word. It ain't nothing to pull out a thesaurus, but whatever. I have the distinct honor, yes, of introducing all of you to the wonderful and the amazing. And actually, before I start, I actually know, I can't help that you ain't got no backstory, but I actually want to say this because the person that I'm introducing is actually the chair of an AERA SIG. And for those of you who are listening, you're like, what's AERA? Because I think I've said that in other episodes. It's the American Educational Research Association. I'm like, what is it?
But you want to introduce it. Go ahead.
But yeah, I want to introduce it because I want my Nana to know what we're talking about. But anyway, this person is the co-chair of this particular SIG. And when I met them, sometimes, and I'm not trying to take shots because I still need y'all to accept my proposals and allow me to get tenure and promotion through this process. But sometimes the people in AERA be acting real uppity. Like, for real. They be, I don't know what be wrong with them, but they don't act right. And this person really
be killing us all. Go ahead.
It runs through black bodies, and we can tell that in that space. But this person really has created an atmosphere. You know when you just meet somebody and they just got like a good spirit about them?
As you were saying that, I was thinking about Kurt Carr.
Let's set the atmosphere. When they enter into a space, though, I really feel good energy. And then I had to do some let me see if this person real. I went to one of their presentations because I got the fact check. I want to make sure that you carry yourself the same way around. And they're amazing. And so I want to introduce all of you all to Dr. Asia Denise Reynolds.
Come on, Denise.
Okay? Yes. Go ahead. And one of the things that I think is fascinating when I'm reading this bio is that Dr. Reynolds is a healer, an activist, an artist, and an educator. And it's so amazing because when you were reading the bio for Dr. Kaler-Jones, I was like, I can see some things happening here. Dr. Reynolds is the legacy of Linda and the late Ralph Reynolds, a testament of her family's survival and resistance in the United States. In the many roles she is positioned in, she is led by a Black feminist spirit of care, collectivism, and courage to confront systems of oppression. Yo, we got some Okay, anyway, let me get through this. Currently, she is an assistant professor of urban education and critical race studies at Wayne State University. Dr. Reynolds' research interests are inspired by her ongoing relationships with Black girls to engage theories and practices in geography, youth development, and social movements. Her collaborative engagement with Black girls focuses on creating fugitive or freedom spaces through the use of art, activism, and healing. Ain't that dope?
It's good.
But I ain't even said the dopest things yet, because, honey, listen to this dissertation title that they have, okay? Now, they got articles and stuff, but I want to talk about the dissertation title for a second, all right? Yeah, because I don't want people to be whatever. But the dissertation title is Ain't Nobody Checking for Us. Race, Fugitivity, in Urban Geographies of Black Girlhood. Ain't nobody checking for us, but we checking for us today. Okay. And so while this was a current work because of the dissertation process, it's also a labor of love from Dr. Reynolds. Additionally, she is part of national education networks, including Education for Liberation Network, in which she organizes with teachers, youth, and community organizations to develop justice-centered educational sites. Ain't nobody fresher than my class. Okay. Come on.
I got not last but not least,
and
but
DJ Khaled in another one.
I got
we
ain't
another playing one with y'all today.
I'm just reading through her bio, and I think I got chills just listening to how a lot of their work overlaps. And even though Autumn and Cierra, they know each other, they're all connected. Let me tell y'all how. So let me just introduce her because she is a doctor too.
Okay. on, doctor.
So Dr. Autumn A. Griffin. Now, I ain't giving y'all her middle name because she didn't give it to me. Okay, so Dr. Autumn A. Griffin is a postdoctoral research fellow in the Reading, Writing, and Literacy Department at the University of Pennsylvania's Graduate School of Education. Honey.
Come on.
Okay, her research interest centers the multiple and digital literacies of Black students with a particular focus on who? Black girls.
Come on.
In particular, Autumn employs Black feminist and critical race theories to explore the literacies of Black girls both in and out of classrooms and hopes to use her research to influence policy related to literacy, race, and gender. Now, you know this is about to be my favorite part, but Autumn hopes to amplify the voices of Black girls through her scholarship, but also Autumn is a 200-hour RYC, meaning that she's a yoga instructor.
Oh my God, y'all better not be up in here namasteing.
Okay, I'm excited. And loves combining yoga with Black feminist practices of healing to create sacred spaces for Black women and girls.
That's dope.
Y'all, can we give it up for our amazing, brilliant, dope Black girls?
All of that.
So can y'all say what's up to the people?
Y'all say what's up. They act like we ain't got nobody here.
Hello.
Hey, y'all. Hey. I know those introductions were a lot, but we want people to know that y'all are for real. And we are so excited, like really, really excited to have you all here. And we, as Dr. B prayed, like we say thank y'all for y'all yes, because we recognize that people don't got to say yes to us. And so we're so excited that our audience is going to be blessed by you all. And I know you probably see the title and think, oh, this is about Black girls. It is about Black girls, but it's for all of us. So make sure you stay tuned in because this is about to get good. So I'm going to let Dr. B start us off with how we always do it on the Black Gaze podcast.
Oh, this is actually one of my favorite segments of the show because one of the things that we know is that we did not get here by ourselves.
Nobody.
And so we always want to go back and honor those who have paved the way. And so for you all, and I'm going to try to get some organization here. Organization. Okay. Real LA-ish. So I would like to start with Dr. Griffin. If you could tell us who is your OG?
Who paved the way for you in understanding Black girlhood and the excellence of Black girlhood? Who's your OG?
I love this question. And I also love that earlier you mentioned your Nana because my OG is my Nana. I love her. I adore her. She is my favorite human on the planet. I often say that, but I think that she taught me first what it means to be a Black girl and to be an authentic Black girl, like to be comfortable with who I am and how I show up in the world, and to not make other people feel comfortable because of my Black girlness, but to just be who I am and to stand in it. And so that influenced then the ways that I interact with the girls I work with. She is my first teacher, and a lot of my pedagogical style comes from her. So my OG is my Nana.
Shout out to your Nana. Come on. That just blessed me. That really did.
Because we talked about this with Shamari and Shay, but just how Black women on many different levels influence us on many different levels. And when you think about, I love that you said, my Nana is my first teacher. I love that. And I also want to say thank you for evoking your Nana into this space.
Absolutely.
Because we don't take that lightly. So thank you, Dr. Griffin. And shout out to your Nana. Okay.
Come on, shout out to your Nana. What about you, Dr. Reynolds?
Yeah, so I was thinking a lot about this in terms of my mama, definitely. And I think sometimes my mom don't understand, like she doesn't even sometimes understand how I am the way I am, because she doesn't even understand how much I was watching her and how much she is who she is, right? And so allowed me to be just like, she always just moved obstacles out the way for me to become whoever I want to become, right? Like even if she didn't feel like she had the tools to give me something, I feel like she always gave me access to either people or organizations and things that I needed to become who I wanted to become.
I love y'all.
I love that she said that she moved obstacles out of the way. Like that's
Or if she didn't have the tools, would provide opportunities for you to gain the tools. That's Black mothering right there. I really like, and last but certainly not least, what about you, Dr. Kaler-Jones?
Yeah, so there are so many OGs who inspired me and made me who I am today. And today I'm really wanting to lift up an ancestor, my ancestor, Allison Rennell Brown. And Allison was the executive director of Communities for Just Schools Fund, the organization that I work for now. And she transitioned to the ancestors in the summer of 2020. She dedicated her life to building a system of education that honors the brilliance of Black children and particularly of Black girls. And among the many ways that she worked to fight for justice, she actually won a groundbreaking consent decree in Meridian, Mississippi. She was an attorney, a bomb attorney, which actually led to the complete overhaul of school discipline and punitive practices. And so she was a fearless, a loving leader. And she always reminded me that taking care of ourselves is both necessary and radical. And we would be at Bus Boys and Poets cutting it up.
Oh, that's my favorite. Come on.
I love Bus Boys and Poets. We'd be there cutting it up.
DC tap watering.
Yes, exactly. Cutting it up. Sharing books. She would always pull books out of her bag to bring to me. And I'm like, oh, I just read that. So we were always so aligned and, grateful for the ways that her spirit continues to guide the work forward.
Wow.
This is y'all.
I just love us, and I love us like as a people, seriously, and like shout out to all of the women that you all lifted up. We're gonna jump right into it because we ain't gonna be before y'all long. You know how they do at the church.
They ain't gonna be before you long.
We ain't gonna be before you long. We gonna get right to our points like the pastor do. Okay, so I have a question for everyone, and I will call out names since you want organization, but I think
you don't have to. I mean, be free in your spirit because I felt like you directed shade to me because I was trying to have organization.
Get up out your feelings now.
It's going to take a minute because you just came from me.
Get up out your feelings. And nobody came from you. I'm using your best practices.
Oh, thank you.
Apology accepted. Okay, so the one thing that we've been doing this season is checking in on our folks, and the reason why we're doing that is because we know we got a lot of folks that are operating in the world like we ain't never ever been in a panorama, aka pandemic. But also we also recognize that as Black women, we've been holding a lot and trying to navigate a lot.
Yes, we have.
In this panacea. Okay?
Not a panacea.
So what I want to ask you all is, sis, you good? Like, are you really good? How would you describe your current state in the best Black girl terms? So,
I love that.
I'll give you an opportunity. So think about the best Black girl terms or the best, Black mama terms that you know. How would you describe your current state right now? And Asia, I'm gonna put you on blast. You first.
My go-to is thinking about Celie from The Color Purple. I'm still here.
I'm still here.
Yes.
Wow.
That's a testimony.
You don't even have to add nothing to that. I'm still here.
I had to do the church back rock, honey, because that's a testimony.
Oh my goodness. What you got out of your best Black girl terms? How you feeling? How you doing?
I'm struggling to answer this question right now because I speak through song often, and I'm trying to figure out.
Give us a song.
But I'm trying to figure out a lyric that kind of describes how I'm feeling right now. The best thing I can think of is Tank and the Bangers has this song called Roller Coasters, or even like Vivian Green's Roller Coasters. And I know both of those songs are about love in particular, but I feel like I have just been on this roller coaster since March of 2020 of like highs, really high highs and really low lows. And I'm kind of just riding it and trying to figure out where it takes us all.
I love that.
And thank you for your vulnerability. Like, I'm on the whole roller coaster right now. I can hear my husband. He always just be like, ride the wave. Just ride the wave. I'd be like, but I'm drowning. But I appreciate you for saying that, Autumn. Wow. Cierra, your best Black girl terms, how are you?
My heart is exhausted and I'll bring in one of my favorite quotes. My mission statement in life is from Maya Angelou, where she talks about my goal in life is not to merely survive, but to thrive. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to both survive and also thrive. So I'm leaning into both of those parts of my heart today.
I gotta keep it 100. I feel like I'm on the roller coaster with all with my hands up,
yes.
But then I'm also in this space where I'm tired of just surviving and wanting to thrive, but still I'm here. So like I get it. Like I get it. I really do.
Listen, and I think as long as we as Black women, Black girls, we continue to be honest about the way that we feel, I think is most important. I've gotten to a space in my life, somebody tell me, Keisha, how are you doing? I'm like, I ain't good.
Yeah.
And let me tell you what's going on, you know, and I'm glad that I'm at a space where I'm free to do that. Like, I have to show up in a way that's best for me, and it doesn't have to always be this cheery. Like, I love being happy and excited, but there are some days
be happy every second,
every single moment, every single day. So I really appreciate you all for sharing. So Dr. B, let's get right into the interview.
Let's jump right in. And so we are talking about Black girls, and I'm so excited. And so my first question, and actually I'm gonna break some of the protocol. I'm just gonna ask the question and then let whoever wants to answer it. Is that okay?
That's your pedagogical practice. Go ahead.
You know what? It's the shade is real on this episode. But why are we talking about Black girls and you got to be shady, baby? But whatever. The question is, can you describe the beauty and complexity of Black girls? And this is to anybody
who want to jump in. I mean, just make it good.
Look, I'm going to have to call y'all out.
See? Show pedagogical practice. See how you just pivoted?
I'm looking at Cierra. Cierra, go ahead. Go for it. Can you describe the beauty and complexity of Black girls? But see, a good teacher knows that ain't going to work for the next question, so we going to call them out. You see what I did there? It was a moment.
I got you.
Cierra, what you got?
I got you. So when I think about answering this question, the best way for me to talk about the beauty and the complexity of Black girls is to bring the young people that I get to learn with into this space. So I'm a dance teacher, and the girls that I work with, I teach in a predominantly Black studio. And the girls that I work with are just so brilliant. And I think about them coming into the dance class after a full day of school, and they would be like, Miss Cierra, can we learn about Black history at dance because we don't learn it at school? Miss Cierra, can we have a girl power day because we don't learn women's history at school? Miss Cierra, can we talk about current events because I know things are messed up in the world and I want to figure out how I can fix it. And so I realized that oftentimes the media and even research in the ways that it looks at the deficits of Black girls, or even compares Black girls to white girls, right, as if they are deviants of the norm, doesn't fully express what the young people that I get to work with, how they show up, because they're so joyful and silly and always cracking jokes. But then always cracking jokes, right?
And good jokes
always
too.
Yes, always coming for your neck, and with love always. But then they would get on stage and they would be so fierce and strong and powerful, just taking up space in the world with their body, their voices, and their creativity. And they're constantly asking for the education that they deserve. They are making those demands and seeing them through. And I don't think that the world is necessarily ready for the brilliance of Black girls, which is why so much policing exists of their existence, of their being. And so for me, the beauty and the complexity of Black girls is really personified through the young people that I get to work with. Their joy, and they bring their sadness to class. They bring their excitement. I will never forget, one of the girls came into class. She's like, Miss Cierra, today we learned about fossils. Like, she was so jazzed about the fossils, right? And like, that's so beautiful to me, to be so excited about these pieces of their lives and to bring it into any space that they enter. So that's what I'm thinking about today.
I love that you said that they take up space, right?
That.
I think that that's something that a lot of Black girls don't get the opportunity to do because they are always policed, right? Like, they got your attitude is nasty, or you need to sit down, or it's just adultification bias that occurs, right? So the idea of you creating this space where Black girls can take up space, I think that's amazing.
Yes. Yes.
Mhm.
We're going to call on
Oh,
next.
I get so caught up.
Me
Thank you,
too.
friend. Asia, what about you? And what is it that how can you describe the beauty and complexity of Black girls?
Yeah, I think just building on that. So I do work in two places with Black girls specifically, and one of those is with the organization The Long Walk Home in Chicago, who use art activism and healing to work with Black girls, particularly around addressing gender violence in their communities. And then the other work I'm doing right now is working on a Y Part project with two
Yes.
amazing, brilliant Black girl researchers in their school where we're holding Black girl care sessions here in Detroit.
Mm.
And so just from both of those spaces, what I see is just they are not waiting on us to build a
That's
space for them,
good.
right?
True.
So as you were saying, like taking up space, right? And like just this idea, they're not waiting on us to
No,
build a
no.
world where they that we see them fully, that we affirm them, that we love on them the way they should. Like they're taking control of that in themselves, and with their sisters, right, with the other girls around them,
Yes.
which is both beautiful, but I also think, right, like part of also this adultification of like Black girls once again having to take care of themselves. And so I'm just often just thinking about like this is beautiful, but I also don't want to romanticize the fact that they're having to carry so much at young ages
Mm-hmm.
on their own, and not only carrying their own stuff because Black girls are generous, right, and
Yeah.
they're selfless, and so they're carrying also our stuff as well,
That's
right?
good.
And so it's both that place of like it's beautiful, but I don't want to romanticize, right, like that they're holding all of that.
Mm.
Thank you.
Ooh.
Y'all did not come to play today. Autumn, can you describe the beauty and complexity of Black girls?
Yeah, I think I agree with everything that has already been said. I also think when I think about the beauty and complexity of Black girls, I think about the ways that Black girls hold and tell stories, as well as the ways that they're able to show up and care for and love themselves and loving other people. And so this exists for me in two different ways. I think if I think about like the storytelling aspect, I will never forget I was in a room of Black girls and we were talking, they wanted to talk about colorism and texturism. I was at a school in DC, and the ways that they were able to draw on history, not that they had been taught in school, because we know schools don't teach our history, right? But the ways that they were able to bring in Creole history, to bring in hip hop history and talk about things like the Lil Kim, Faith Evans, Biggie love triangle, right? Even as they were thinking about the history of Black girlhood and Black girls, and the ways they're able to share those stories with one another and to educate one another in the room without any feelings of shame. There's something about the way that they're able to carry and pick up those stories and tell them even when society is telling them those stories are wrong or unwanted, or don't deserve to be told. And that is so beautiful and such a rich and complex history. And then if I think about the ways that Black girls love and show up for themselves and other folks, I do some work with an organization called Black Girls Smile, and they are specifically focused on the health and well-being, mental health and well-being of Black girls and women. And so right now we're doing some work to organize some book clubs over the summertime for Black girls, but even in some of the like yogic and workshop work that I'm doing with them, the ways that they show up for themselves and they're hungry to know, like they're very aware of the ways that the world polices them, the world demonizes them, the ways that the world attempts to block out spaces for them, right? And they're hungry for these spaces. And what I love about the organization, which is run by Black women, is that it listens to the folks, it listens to the Black girls who are involved to say, what is it that you need? How can we serve you? And then the girls show up and they're hungry and they take these practices that they're learning in these workshops and in these classes into their lives. And they then teach other Black girls how to do the same. And that's just so powerful to me, the ways that we are able to find things. Like you mentioned, Asia, these spaces aren't created for us. They're having to create these spaces for themselves. And similarly, I don't want to romanticize this, but there's something so powerful about the ways that they create these spaces and how these spaces are a force once they've gotten them, once they've created them and are able to move them forward.
Wow.
But like, do you hear the themes? Like Asia hit us with "They're not waiting on us," right? Cierra told us that they need to take up space, but then now we got Autumn talking about storytelling, right?
And how they operate in that
space. And how they operate within that space. Like, this is dope.
This is absolutely dope. Listen, I am going to bring the conversation back to us. So we're going to have a family conversation.
Come on now, take us to the family.
So this is the thing. This question is personal to me. Like when I wrote it, I was like, this is me, and I want to talk about it. So I'm just be honest with y'all. So I am one of them black girls that I show up fully black from Wind Terrace. If you ain't familiar with Wind Terrace, Cincinnati, the
she gonna put on her hood.
Okay, so I did grow up in the hood, and I remember going to Spelman College, and it was clear that I was from the hood, right? And so it was always, you are extremely smart, but we don't want you to show up like that in this space. And it wasn't like that everybody at Spelman was not like that. But even now, being in academia, they're like, you're smart and you do great work, but we don't want that type of black woman in this space. And so I want to talk about the respectability politics that exist among black girls in middle-class spaces. So how do we disrupt the division that exists between black girls in the hood and respectability politics that exist in some black middle-class spaces? I ain't saying all, I'm saying some. Simply put, how do we learn not how to hate ourselves?
Ooh.
So I want to start with Autumn.
Yeah, I knew this was coming to me first.
Did you just feel it in your spirit?
I did. I felt
was like,
it.
yeah, it's Autumn. Go ahead.
Admittedly, I don't think this is something that the Academy or Black girl scholars or in general that we've done a good job of so far. I think there is absolutely room to invite Black girls who are from the hood into our spaces and to listen to them, to hear what it is they have to say. I think that in the early 2000s, I remember being in middle school and reading a lot of street literature, like at school under the table, so my mom didn't find out, right?
True to the game.
Listen, I even watched all the movies, True to the Game 1 and 2, but go ahead.
Yes. And so I very much remember I knew that was not something I was supposed to do, right? And I think in a lot of ways we were conditioned to understand hood experiences as something that are negative or should be hidden or like closeted in some ways, right?
That's good.
And so Delicia Green, who is one of my mentors, is doing really great work around bringing that literature back into schools with girls, right? Where like she holds literature circles and Black girls explore these street literature texts and then discuss them. And we need more work like that, right? More opportunities for Black girls from the hood to see themselves in text, to see themselves on the screen in ways that don't caricature them, and kind of are authentic and show love to them and don't demonize them, but actually shed some light on the systems that cause these some of the issues that they're dealing with to continue to happen. And so I think that we all just have a responsibility to do better by Black girls from the hood, and that means going to the hood sometimes. Like we can't sit up in our ivory tower and look down and say these are the things we should be doing. Like, no, we need to do them ourselves. We need to be practitioners and we need to engage praxis.
Listen, I'm gonna add a question to this because I kind of joined them together, and I'm gonna add Cierra on for this one. In your opinion, can you make the connection between the ways in which Black girls in the hood influence everything that we do in society? Because I'm thinking about dance specifically. So I'm going to go to you, Cierra.
I like that because I can think of that TikTok dance. Yeah, the renegade. Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes, absolutely. And, as I think about this question, first and foremost, Black girls are not a monolith. And I believe that their everyday actions are art. Like Autumn was talking about storytelling. We tell stories not only in the content, but in the ways that we move in the world. Our everyday actions tell stories about who we are and where we've come from and where we're going. And, when I think about this the added question of Black girls in the hood, right? They are creating a culture that other people then tack themselves onto,
That's
right?
good.
And we see this entire TikTok culture of these dances and like a shared language.
Yeah.
You know, I
Shared
was thinking I just got to spend some time with some incredible Black girls in Mississippi, and you know, it was just this moment where it was like, oh, you know the dance, oh, we all know the dance, right?
Wow.
And even though we had never met before, it was something that we had in common, and it's because of the cultural brilliance that they share with the world, and the ways that then their contributions are erased, because then you see, you know, everybody else doing it as well and never giving credit back where credit is due. So I keep coming back to their everyday actions are art, and something that Autumn said that is really touching me too is the importance of listening to them. I learned from Natalie Collier, who is the director of the Lighthouse Black Girls Projects in Mississippi as well. And I'll never forget, she said, we have to listen to Black girls, but it's also irresponsible of us to not act on their demands, which also brings me to Trevor Lindsay talked about how our activism, our scholarship is intertwined, and the future of Black feminism really demands that we resist any and all attempts to disentangle knowledge production from organizing and mobilizing. So I think about the importance of listening and also the action piece. And I'll say one thing that I've learned from Black girls is, you know, when I went into my dissertation process, I was using the term identity development, and it was because of my co-researchers, high school age Black girls, that I ultimately changed it to be identity construction, because they explicitly said to me, you know, we don't develop our identities, we construct it, we build it. And that for me, I think about that a lot, and especially in relation to this question of like Black girls in the hood, Black girls everywhere are building a culture that will, a cultural legacy that will stay with us for a lifetime.
That's good. That's good. Asia, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I mean, I love this question. When I read this question, I loved it. And I loved it for many reasons. One being that last year I was actually supposed to do a talk for a group of Black women. I was supposed to be the guest lecturer for a group of Black women in this organization. And I pulled out because as we continue to have conversations, I wanted my talk to force us to reckon with that, with our respectability politics, right? And how much that we get to have proximity to hood things when we want to.
Come on.
That's good.
But how we'll quickly also depart from hood things when we know it doesn't
talk
benefit
that
us,
talk.
Right?
That's good, Asia.
And I say that as somebody who was in the middle place, right? Where I definitely grew up low income, but also had access to middle class spaces, right? So having access to Delta teens when I'm a kid, right? Having access to certain church spaces where the ladies with nice hats all go, right? And so when you're toting that line, I'm getting to see the both of those worlds. And so when I thought about that question, I just thought about so much work that we as Black women have to do to literally move the obstacles for Black girls, right? And when I think about most places where I've taken Black girls, groups of Black girls, and who was the security guard or the person who came over to police us, they were Black women. And that's a hard conversation to have, especially outside of the family space, right? That's a hard conversation to have around how many of the folks who have been part of some of the violence enacted on Black girls include Black women. And so what is the work we're willing to take up in order that it's not just like hood girls coming to where we are, but like that hood girls, like the work exists in the hood, outside of hood, or wherever, right? Like, and it doesn't have to be something that we like that becomes just like part of the work, like nothing that's not something we have to think about second-handedly, but like that is part of the work that we see them.
You know what, Asia, I appreciate you being honest, because I don't want to miss this opportunity. And I'm going to share this story because I'm sure that my sister won't mind. But my baby sister had a daughter when she was 16 years old. And, you know, in school, they always compared us to, you know, my sister is absolutely brilliant, but I was the valedictorian and like did all the things well, right? I knew how to assimilate really well. And I really believe that schools are for Black people who know how to assimilate. But we're going to talk about that on another day. I did a talk back in my hometown in Cincinnati, and I was talking about, it was a scholarship banquet where they were giving like marginalized students who were making it out, giving them money. And so they thought that I was going to be like this token Black girl who was going to come up there and be like, oh, I made it out too, and thank you all so much for giving me this money. But I was like, the only reason why I made it out of here is because I assimilated. And the whole room got quiet. And I was like, listen, I am not smarter than my sister who had 2 kids by the time she graduated. I know she's smarter than me.
That's
but
good.
My sister refused to assimilate, or she refused to do the things that she felt like people thought that she should do to get to the next step. And literally, they were upset about my talk. But I remember my little sister coming up to me and crying afterwards. And she said, this is the first time that I've seen myself in you since you graduated from Spelman.
Wow.
And that let me know that I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do. And I have really been on this journey, and I'm thinking I'm going to evoke Chris Emden here, even though we're talking about Black girls, but he talks about how in schools, even with teachers, when we see a Black brilliant girl that assimilates, we're always like, you got to get out of the hood. You got to get out of the hood. You got to get out of the hood. And we're pushing them out of their communities. He was like, but what are we saying to them about their community when we tell them you can't be in this space? Yeah. And nobody ever said that to me. People will always say, oh, you're so smart and you're doing so well, so you have to remove yourself from this space. But everything I know about how to survive, how to thrive, how to be excellent, how to be great, I got it from the hood. Yeah. I didn't get that from academia. And I think about all of the stuff, like it really bothered me, the conversation around the bonnets. That really, really bothered me, because I was thinking about like every hairstyle, every clothing piece, all that stuff come from the hood. That ain't come from no middle class space, period, full stop. But it's okay for us to make money off of Black girls in the hood, but when it comes to actually really amplifying them and elevating them, then we're like, no, we like your style, we like your hairstyle, we like your lingo that we can use when we at brunch, but you can't come into this space. And I was like, we got to have a full conversation about the Black girls that we let in that make us feel good, that won't tell us about ourselves, like, you don't really want me in this space, this looks good for this moment. And so I'm always, even when I'm like, my family still live in the hood that I grew up with, so when I go home, I go back to Win Terrace. I'm not going into a middle class space, but I'm always thinking to myself, am I evoking the way that I feel like they should be when I come into this space, or am I really allowing them to be free? So it's a constant battle when I go into academia, like, am I really showing up the way where I allow people to be free, even if it doesn't look the way that I think it should look? Because this Ph.D. that I got doesn't guarantee me freedom in this space either. So why not let them just be who they want to be? So thank you all for sharing that and for dealing with my question, because I'm still battling with that.
Look, that wasn't a question. You was hype. Like, the mic is hot. We need to cool it off. Listen, that thing hit a nerve. And I just let you go, because I said you had to get that off your spirit.
I really do. And I also, this is the last thing I'm going to share, and I'm going to be quiet.
Yeah, because you done shared a lot already, but go ahead, sis, free yourself.
This whole conversation about when people be like, this is so ghetto, I'm like, most of y'all would never survive a day in the ghetto. Who you talking to?
Listen, couldn't drop them off nowhere.
Listen, when people be upset, like, I remember when the pandemic started, they were like, oh my God, this is so ghetto, we can't go outside. I'm like, do you know how much stuff in the hood we know how to navigate through it? Y'all cried about not being able to go to
cable, being able to make some meals with limited resources. Come on, everything we know.
Listen,
the hustle of academia, the foundation is my hood. Shout out to 41. Like, that's what I'm talking about. Come on, 41.
But I want to let our co-host share anything before we move to our last question. I can't believe it's almost over.
I know. I enjoy y'all. Let me just pause for the cause, Darius Daniels.
Pause for the cause.
Just to let you all know that your brilliance is. I know we're talking about Black girls, but you all were once Black girls too, now Black women. You all are brilliant, and just the information you dropped today has. It's just you blessed me.
Yes,
and clearly you blessed Keisha, because she done went off on a tangent. I was like, really?
It had to do with the question.
But
It
did. But I do want you all to take a moment, and as I'm thinking about this, I want you. We have a lot of educators that listen to our podcast. We have a lot of teacher educators that listen to our podcast. And if they don't, they should. But one of the things that we see, that was shade. Your spirit jumped on me.
No,
I
you don't
rebuked the
put that on
shade.
me.
But,
Don't put that on me.
but one of the things that I see a lot in schools, and I have these conversations in my courses as well, is about the violence that, is projected onto Black girls. I use the video of the 6-year-old in Orlando that was arrested, the Black girls who began slammed by school resource officers. And a lot of times these situations are occurring because of teachers, because of the things that they're doing. I'm going to have to call a thing, right?
Come on,
I'm thinking about, I miss her so much, but whatever. So I'm thinking about Patricia Williams in the spirit murdering. Bettina Love talks about that also within her book. And I want people to know that Black girls are bomb. We are a bag of chips with a soda on the side and some Skittles,
And a
okay?
hot pickle,
and a hot pickle. Okay, that might be Cincinnati. So what gems can you drop to help teachers, but also teacher educators, those who are in the ivory towers who think that they are untouchable, so that they really can see the greatness of Black girls and help to cultivate? Well, wait, no, not cultivate, because what did you say?
They
what
create.
Sierra said that
They
co-construct. Yes, co-construct who Black girls are in these spaces. How can we bring them into these spaces and honor them and who they are? So can I start with, give me a name.
Sierra.
Yes. Oh, so many thoughts here. The work to actually create and sustain educational spaces worthy of Black girl brilliance is holistic and it is transformative. And when I say transformation, I'm talking about once something is transformed, it can never go back to the way that it was.
Ooh.
And we know that the education system was not built, again, talking about surviving and thriving, it was not built for us to do either. And so one piece of advice or just encouragement that I would offer educators is to be aware of how policing shows up. Not just the policing that shows up in terms of police the noun, because the Black girls that I work with are very adamant. They say police free schools. That's what they mean. They said what they said.
And what they said.
Yeah. And that, policing shows up in a multitude of forms. One of the things that I've been thinking about and working with community about is social emotional learning and how it is this huge buzz term that's being used in schools. And when it's not done from a culturally affirming place, it ultimately ends up being used as another form of policing, of emotional policing. And that happens particularly for Black girls, right? So when you express an emotion like righteous rage, which is necessary and important. And as Audre Lorde tells us, that righteous rage, ultimately, we can harness it to be used as a tool for action. Wow. And so when Black girls express their righteous rage, they are often not only, they are physically policed and also emotionally policed to say, oh, you can't express your emotions in that way. Another thing that I'll say too, as I talk about holistic and transformative work, is that it has to be all of the different layers, right? So it has to be curriculum and pedagogy. It has to be policies and practices. It has to be the work that we need to do internally to even show up fully to create spaces and sustain spaces where Black girls can be themselves. And I think about my co-researchers who really personify what I believe to be the Ghanaian principle of Sankofa, to go back and get it, that it is not taboo to fetch what is at risk of being left behind. And so many of them are asking to learn truthful history about their experiences, not just history that only talks about a few figures, but actually shares the history of resistance, the history of art, of culture, that moves beyond the singular figures, talking about collective struggle and building community power. And that curriculum should provide opportunities for young people to dream, to create, to play, to tell their stories, and to construct their identities. The pedagogy should tailor the curriculum to meet their interests and also the ways that they move, how they tell stories with their everyday actions. And then moving to policy and practices, as you talked about hair earlier, moving away from racist and sexist dress code policies. This work is so deep And white supremacy is so insidious, and it is embedded in every aspect of how schools were created, right? Because they were created as a tool for colonization and conformity. So we have to do some really transformative work to build completely new spaces, because the spaces that operate today are not ones that work.
Wow.
Cierra, tell them how you really feel. My
goodness. To the curriculum level, to the policy level.
So there's no excuses. Honestly, we're not providing any room for excuses, and I appreciate that. Autumn, let's come to you. Let's hear what you got to say to those teachers, teacher educators who need to get it right.
Or just other folks in general.
Other folks, because you know what? Asia did put us on notice, which I already knew that. But a lot of times, it's us as Black women policing. So, like, what you got for anybody in that category? Policers.
Anybody can get it.
Anybody can get it.
I think the first thing I would say, and I often quote this when I get a question like this, is Kendrick Lamar's humble, sit down, be humble, right? Like, I work with so many teacher educators, and we know that the majority of the teaching field is white women, right? And y'all are going in to teach this increasingly diverse student population. And there's always a but, like, but this, but that, but. You likely have not experienced what the students in your chairs are experiencing. So sit down, be humble, listen to what they are saying to you. Like Cierra mentioned, these students are, Black girls in particular, are telling you how they feel. And Audre Lorde explicitly told us that the white forefathers taught us to be logical and to deny our feelings, and that the Black foremothers, our ancestors, taught us to acknowledge our feelings, and that when we feel, we can be free. And so as they are feeling these things and expressing them to you, that's a privilege. And you have a distinct responsibility to sit down, be humble, listen to what they say, reflect, and then change your pedagogy as a result. So that's number one. I think the second thing, I would say, as a literacy educator in particular, is that we have to think about how we are defining literacy for Black girls, right? What does it mean to incorporate Black girlhood methods of storytelling into your classes? What does it mean to take up text that tells stories from Black girls' perspective, right? And I think Star in The Hate U Give is a great example, right? She's also a Black girl from the hood who goes to this very white school and does this code switching and assimilating thing. Where are the stories of Black girls who don't do that? How are you showing them in your classroom, and how are you presenting them as legitimate stories that are valued and stories that deserve to be told? How are you thinking about storytelling in multiple platforms? So Black girls today are telling stories, yes, on paper, right? There's tons of novels coming out by just brilliant Black women who were once Black girls. And also Black girls are telling stories on TikTok with their bodies. Black girls are telling stories on Instagram with the multimodal representations of text that they create, right? Through their hair tutorials and makeup tutorials. What are the stories they're telling there, and how are we bringing them into classroom, and again presenting them as legitimate? So how are we thinking about the ways that Black girls tell stories in different ways, and allowing them or facilitating space for them to tell those stories in class, right? Again, thinking about how we're transforming our schools and our school systems.
Wow. I'm thinking about, like, when Autumn was saying that, it also took me back to how Black girls influence everything in social media. When I say everything, as she was talking, I was thinking about the reels, the creativity. I'm thinking about the YouTube videos, like, for real, like the way they set it up is just so absolutely amazing. And I never even thought about that as a learning tool or a storytelling tool. So you just schooled me. You just put me on to something too.
Listen, I'm listening, and I'm just like, wow. But I'm even thinking about your niece. I'm thinking about my daughter, how they're, like, my daughter, I get so annoyed because I'm like, girl, ain't that much stuff on TikTok. Like, get off of it, right? But, like, that's that's their story. That's how they communicate. That's their world. And instead of sitting here, I need to do a Kendrick Lamar. I need to sit down and be humble.
Come on.
I need to let her live and develop construct is what Cierra was saying. Just be able to construct that space. So y'all are blessing my whole entire being.
I can't help but think about what Shamari said on the episode Shay said. I can't remember which one. This is mommy brain. What are we afraid of? Why are we afraid of allowing Black girls to be completely free in whatever space they want to be in? What are we afraid of? So that's also a question that we got to think about, because it's like, okay, I want you to be on TikTok. I want you to do it this way. What are we afraid of?
Because if
what do we lose by allowing them to be free on TikTok and to create in that way?
I think we scared of all that we gonna gain.
Oh, now I ain't never scared of it, but
I think the non-melanated folks are very scared that if you let these Black girls be free, they dominating. They taking over everything.
But listen, Asia said they already doing it anybody, so.
But let them have the space. Let them hold the space. Asia, speaking of which, what you got for the people? Look, everybody can get it, Asia. What you want them to get?
No, I think that question of what you just asked around, what do we feel like we lose, right, when Black girls are free? And I wrote in my dissertation that what upsets us about Black girls' freedom is we then see how oppressed we are, how like subjugated we are, how much we are like leaning into our own oppression, right? Of like restrictions and policing. And so I feel like, adding on to like everything my sister said is just like on point, right? Of how we think about school. But like, I'm always coming back to this self-work, because I think it's hard to implement things when you don't understand why you are the problem, right? And I think like that starting point of like, you're the problem. Every time you see a Black girl doing something that makes you have this knee-jerk reaction, it's not her that you actually need to aim to fix. It is now a moment for you to hold up the mirror and say, what about that just made me knee-jerk, right? I do this with my nieces as well, right? Like every time my nieces do something that I'm about to do a knee-jerk, I have to sit with myself before I even respond to be
good.
What really about that upsets you, right?
That's so good.
Or what you've been told about policing your own self and your own body so that other people respect you, even though we know that's still not true either, right? And so I think it's everything that y'all said, but on top of that, of continuously, it's an ongoing interrogation of self. It's an ongoing reflection with self and sitting with self around what about their freedom is upsetting me or revealing to me about the ways I'm unfree.
Good. Got to be more careful.
Listen, and I'm thinking about, I've been looking for this talk that she did a long time ago, and I cannot find it. Nicole Hannah-Jones, she said something, I think somebody asked her a question about, like, how can I guarantee that I'm going to be successful? And she answered back with, quit telling Black children that if they graduate from high school, go to college, be respectable, do all these things, that guarantees success for them in this country. It doesn't. And I was like, ooh. She was like, you can do all the things right and all the things well, and you still gonna get that smoke from these white people, or these non-melanated people. So it makes me think about, still keep going back to that freedom point in Asia. I'm so glad that you said that, with that knee jerk, that checking yourself, like, what about this makes me uncomfortable? Because I think about, Black mamas be like, don't be out here acting no fool, making me look crazy, embarrassing me, right? But it's like, what are they really embarrassing us, or are we really afraid of? I know that there is real fear about what can happen to our children, what can happen to our folks from these folks who act like savages in this country. But it's real. Like, it's a constant check. I remember we were thinking about my cousin. He's a boy, graduated from Tuskegee, and he loves his do-rag, honey. He loves his waves to be spinning. Do you hear me? He works for Lockheed Martin now. He's an aerospace engineer. And I remember as we were preparing him to move him to California, his mama kept saying, don't be driving around with that do-rag going. Don't be driving around with that do-rag going. Because in her mind, she's like, I don't want you to have this do-rag going because I don't want you to get stopped and get hurt. But it's like, this boy he about to move to a new state, trying to get a boo. He need his wave spinning, period, right? And so when I think about how we are policing Black girls, I think a lot of it is definitely respectability politics, definitely, the ways in which we've been treated, like Asia said, and talked to about our bodies and the way that we're supposed to show up. All of those things. But I also think it's like, who didn't let me do that?
Absolutely. It's a very much so, and I'm glad, Asia, because I'm sitting here really rewinding in my mind my parenting. Like, I'm really thinking, like, why do I tell my daughter, when you go out there, I want you to do X, Y, and Z? Yesterday, when she got dropped off on her little movie, I was about to say movie date. She ain't going no date. But when she got dropped off at the movies, like, it was rules to this. Like, when you go up in there, you keep that mask on. I don't care what these non-melanated people tell you. You wear your mask. You make sure that you ain't in there acting a fool. Mask. But it's a lot. You know what? Be quiet. But it's a lot of policing that I do, and I feel like for me personally, the reason why I do that is because I know the dangers and the things that can happen to her. And I remember even, and this is the last story because we're gonna move forward. But when we was in Atlantic City for that conference, and remember we went to go see The Photograph with Issa, Issa Rae. Issa D. But anyway, we went to the movies and we saw some non-melanated children in line, and they were acting a fool, like wrestling and pushing each other and all these things. And I don't know why we always do this, but I was like, what if black kids can come into this space
and wrestle
and have freedom and not have no police or security running to them telling them, I'm gonna get out of line or I'm about to put you in handcuffs. It's just, I think for me, just the fear that our children cannot be in these spaces and be free. And that's my fear. And I know that that's something I'm going to have to work on. But until I see black girls not getting jacked up and slammed on their heads at schools, and until I see black people not being shot, that's always how I'm going to have to navigate, because I got to protect what's mine.
But even think about the girls who do follow the rules and they still get snatched up.
And that's another part, because my daughter is brilliant, straight A student, but she still got harassed this year. She got harassed because the teacher's trying to tell her what she ain't doing, which her work was done. She's too smart for this. So it's always this, you can't win.
This is good. And I hope that all of the black girls who listen to this podcast, I hope, because I also know that as black women, we still are, tussling with the black girls inside of us, right?
We are.
So I hope that, we feel free. And I can't wait to go back and listen to it. But also, black girls will see themselves and also know that they have the power to be free in the way that they choose
and take up space.
So I'm super excited. Y'all, we have 2 more segments of our podcast. This was so good. Like, I have a lot to think about. So we have a segment that is real black. It's called "What You Doing with Your Life."
What you doing with your life?
And so basically, we ask y'all what you reading, what you watching. What ratchet TV you watching, what you listening to, what playlist you got popping. I think Shamari had a bomb playlist idea. But I'm going to start with Adam. What you reading? What you listening to? What you watching on TV? Share with the folks.
Yeah, so I'm reading 2 things always. So the one thing I'm reading that is like for adults, I guess, is
what you reading, Adam? What kind of risque stuff you got going on?
And not even like that, but Cynthia Diller's The Spirit of Our Work.
Yeah. Oh, yes, got that.
It's so good. It's so good, and it's blessing my whole heart. And I just didn't know how much I needed it, especially right now. And then the children's book that I'm reading, because I'm also always reading and rereading a children's book, is Your Name is a Song. And that book has been blessing my heart. I have it right here because I'm reading it always.
Your Name is a Song. Wow.
I think I saw that in Target.
It's so good.
Target got to pay us for that advertisement, but
girl, sorry.
Yes.
Go ahead, Autumn.
Get your coin. But it is a book about a little Black girl who goes to school, and the teacher mispronounces her name, and all of the kids laugh. And her mom is like, no, you go back and you tell that teacher names are songs, and your name is a song. And you teach her your song and her song and all the kids' other songs. And it's so beautiful. And there are so many layers to that book. What am I watching right now? I am patiently waiting for Abbott Elementary to come back.
Oh my goodness. Such a great show.
We all are.
Listen, Quinta did something with that show, and I'm really grateful for her. I love that this is a story being told from the perspective of a Black girl teacher.
Yeah.
And a new Black girl teacher, because I remember being there. And I'm so interested to see how her character evolves over the course of the show.
Yeah.
And I love that she's highlighting Black children on the show.
Yes.
In all of their
Black children.
Glory,
yes.
Yes.
Listen, all of their brilliance, all of their silliness. And I currently work in Philly, so it's such a special show for me.
I love it.
And then the last question was about playlists. What am I listening to? So I have this playlist that I made called Groovy that I really love. It's my like cool down at the end of the evening.
I love it.
And then Lucky Day's new album.
Is it good?
It's so good.
Okay.
It's so good. The musicality on both of his albums is just amazing. But I mean, when you think about who his mentors are, Earth, Wind and Fire, Babyface, and I'm missing Raphael
Sadiq.
Sadiq. Like he has no choice but to be great. So the album is wonderful. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Autumn. That's so sweet. Your name is a song. I can't wait. I cannot wait to get that
because
one.
we do name stories with our students.
So I can't wait to do that. Wow. Asia, what you doing with your life? What you listening to? What you reading? What you watching? You don't have to share them all, but if you want to, girl, it's your show.
Yes. So I'm reading Dornell Hurston's new essay book, You Don't Know Us Negroes. It's very slowly I'm reading. Like I try to catch an essay here and there because for work we're always reading.
Yeah.
I'm definitely watching Abbott. And then I'm also watching Good Girls. So over last weekend I went home to see my nieces and my nephews, and my nieces put me on the Good Girls, and so now I'm binge watching Good Girls. And then music. I am wearing Jasmine Sullivan's Hotel Motels all the way out.
Come on.
She will be here next Friday, and I'm very clear that in my section is a sing-along. If you are here
Wait a minute,
to Jasmine,
your section is sing-along.
It's a sing-along.
Listen, know your notes, get your words right. If you are here to only listen to Jasmine, you need to be in another section, okay?
This is a choir. This is a
choir.
I love it.
I love it. Oh my God,
Sierra,
I love y'all.
Yes. What you listening to, what you read, what you watching.
I'm ready to be a part of this choir.
Listen,
okay?
I want to be.
I've been preparing, warming up my vocal cords. So similar to Autumn, I also just finished reading The GOAT, Cynthia Dillard's The Spirit of Our Work. As Autumn said, it truly is a bomb. Everybody's got to read it. I'm also just really rooting myself in Dr. Goldie Muhammad's Cultivating Genius. I've been using that for every professional development that I've been working with educators and administrators on, and just her attention to joy as part of this framework. It just touches my soul just thinking about it. I also love children's books as well. So this book, y'all, Magic Like That.
Come on, hairpins in her hair.
I love the clips. Come on, clips.
Do you see the clips? Oh, I wish I could read some of it to you because it is so stunning. The words and all of the pictures are really gorgeous. So if you're interested in children's books or engaged with children's literature in your work, I highly recommend that as a resource and just a beautiful tool. I've also been reading Jane Allen's. I read Black Girls Must Die Exhausted, just ran to the store to get Black Girls Must Be Magic, the second book in the series. So I'm ready to read that. And in terms of what I'm listening to, I have this playlist. I just call it my yoga playlist, but it's got, it's all the good stuff. Erykah Badu, Jill Scott.
Come on,
I got some Adele on there
with them.
Yes. And my go-to jam for every time I open up a Zoom room space is Mary J. Blige, Just Fine. Everybody jamming to that. It's like one of those songs that you can kind of power walk to.
Yes,
like,
you can feel it in your spirit because when you said it, the beat just made me dance.
Listen.
Yes.
Listen, who is it? I don't know if y'all watch Love and Marriage Huntsville, but you know how they be saying, Tisha Mama got the Mary J. Blige.
Listen.
Okay, let me act right.
Just stop. Redirect us. It's my section.
You gotta do the Mary J. dance with it too, okay?
Listen, I can't move like Mary, but I got a little something in my tank. But wait a minute.
What? Go ahead, girl.
All right, y'all. We are at our last segment, which is I See You.
I See You Shining.
So in this segment, y'all, we want to highlight people, and we gonna do, what did you call it one time?
A whip around.
We gonna do a whip around. We gonna ask you all, who do y'all see? Really quickly, we want you all to give. Y'all can have a Keisha spirit if you must, and give more than one person.
But who's the shady one?
But like one or two, whatever you want to do. Just let the spirit move you. But we want to know, who do you see out here doing this work when it comes to Black girls? Like, who's out here creating space, letting Black girls be free, doing all the things that really put Black girls on the map. So let's go ahead and get started with Autumn.
Yes. So I think the first person I can think of is my former advisor, Dr. Jennifer Turner, who let this Black girl be free in her doc program. And I know that is not common for everyone.
No,
so I'm thankful for her. I also just want to shout out the Black Girls Literacies Collective, like Goldie Muhammad, Yolanda Seeley Ruiz, Marcel Haddix, Delicia Green, like all the women who are doing this work to help Black girls be free in schools.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love
Thank
it.
you.
Yes.
Come on, Cierra. Who you got?
Yeah, so I love to shout out my possibility model, Dr. Lauren Mims, who created space for me. She's my mentor, my friend, and just continues to lift me and all the Black girls in her life up around. And, I also want to say in this space that Autumn was a year above me in our Ph.D. program and created so much space for me in, trying to navigate the Ph.D. program where you had white professor saying that doing arts-based research wasn't research. And, I'll never forget Autumn sat down with me and went through our literature reviews together. And just
I love it. Go Autumn.
For me to see myself and to see the kind of work that I wanted to do. So publicly wanted to thank you and shout you out as we get to share this space together.
Yo, I love this space. Come on, Asia, what you got?
Yeah, so I want to shout out my mentor, Dr. Ruth Nicole Brown. I know many of us read her work as we were thinking about Black girlhood, but I'm just excited that she was someone I met and I felt like was, how we meet people in academia and sometimes they aren't who we want them to be, right? But I feel like she has consistently been the person that she portrays to be and continues to check on me. I also actually just want to quickly shout out to my sisters, Freema Porcher and Ree Violet Botts, who both are always my think partners around Black girlhood, and particularly around Black girlhood, this intersection between Black girlhood and abolition work. And so I'm just thankful to them too, and the work that they do individually and the work we do collectively.
Y'all have truly blessed me, and to be honest, I know that we got to get to the church bulletin board announcements, but I am not going to hold no Black girls podcast and not shout out my favorite Black girl, Dr. Keisha Porcher, okay? Because she done helped me hold it down academically, personally, professionally, child. You name it, okay? So, that's the Shirley season joint. But I just want to shout you out, Black girl, because I'm not going to be talking about Black girls and not do my favorite Black girl, my bestie Westie. Like, that ain't what I'm about.
Listen, and the crazy thing is, I always have these moments where, and she will tell y'all, I be all in my feelings, where I send her these long text messages about how much I love her and I care about her. But literally, as I was listening to you all talk, I was getting a little teary-eyed just thinking about the relationship that Charmaine and I have developed. And I was actually, when we finished this podcast, but I'll just say it publicly, I was going to say to you, I'm just so thankful that God thought enough of us to do this work together. I know that we could be doing this with anyone else, but I know that he ordained us for this moment and for this time. And I'm so glad that you let me be free in our relationships, even when I get on your nerves and I love on you too much. You still let me show up and, with my son and do whatever I want to do. So I love you, and I'm so thankful that you're my friend.
I'm a thug. I don't cry. But I love you.
I love you too. So, y'all know at the end of church, they have the announcements printed in the bulletin, but they also say them out loud. So that's what we gonna do. We got them printed, but we gonna say them out loud. So first thing that I want to say is y'all can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, y'all. When I tell y'all, our team now who also do work on Black girlhood. Shout out to Mimi and Brittany. They have really elevated our work and they exemplify Black girlhood and Black excellence. So shout out to them. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube on Black Gays Podcast, but on Twitter, Black Gays Pod. Please engage with us on social media. When I tell y'all Mimi and Brittany are killing it, like
yes, they
just
are.
Shouting out Black women, engage. Like go ahead and engage. Don't just be on them people pages just stalking. Like say something back to us.
Come
okay?
on, being nosy.
And share it with other people. Like share these episodes with other Black girls. Like share them in your teacher ed program. Share them at your school. Shout out to my student who actually used our first podcast for this season for social emotional learning for their students across their entire school. So
that's
shout
amazing.
out to Heidi for that. So share the episodes with your folks and with your enemies. Like they need to be free too. God love them too.
We gonna pray for them.
We only have one more ask of you all because we don't say that we brought you out here to interview you all. We see y'all as our equals. Like y'all are our co-host. So we only have one request for you is that you like let us know who you are and we will model for you all. So we'll just, I don't know how we gonna point, but y'all just jump in.
You know what? I'm gonna do the teacher thing. We gonna go in order. Cierra, Asia, Autumn.
Okay,
that's
so
how they know they stay.
I'll go first. It's your girl, Dr. Porcher.
And it's your girl, Dr. Bertrand. Go ahead.
It's your girl, Asia D. Reynolds.
It's your girl, Dr. Cierra Kaler-Jones.
It's your girl, Autumn A. Griffin.
And we out. Why I forgot my name?
We are two women in academia, raising questions and breaking down perceptions from a Black point of view. Welcome to the Black Gays Podcast.
It's your girl, Dr. Porcher.
And it's your girl, Dr. Bertrand.